The competition is going to continue, and it's very important for the Middle East to position itself as a hub rather than a consumer of AI.
But the founder, at the end of the day, is the founder. And we take a look at all founders the same, the passion, the drive, the relevance, and how much they can bring to the table in solving the problem.
In our second episode, we discuss, is the Middle East AI ready? We will be talking about talent, investment, use case, and regulation with our guests, Akram Awad, partner and global lead for smart cities at BCG, and Noor Sweid, founder and managing partner at Global Ventures. Welcome. So in our first episode, the experts agreed that there was no lack of ambition among nations when it comes to AI. However, there is a broader challenge in terms of human capital. I would like to start with Akram. If you could tell us, in terms of developing AI skills at a national level, where does the region stand? And do you think the Middle East is performing to the level it should be in terms of the AI appetite that exists?
I mean, first, let's go back to the point of why are we even talking about the talents, and it's important. There is no doubt that there is a huge global gap when it comes to AI talents. We're talking about nearly 85%, some estimate 85 million of shortage in AI talents. And if nations do not react to that, they would always be in the receptives and the consumer sides. There is another element, which is why nations need to develop their own AI talents in order to get some sense of AI sovereignty. To ensure that they have the talents that would allow them to tailor AI solutions and technologies to the actual needs of the nations. Now, how the region is doing, I think there are two parts to this question. The overall signals are promising. We are seeing that the Middle East doing quite well when it comes to the overall understanding and the reception of AI. In a recent survey that we conducted in BCG, which was published recently, we found the Middle East coming around third globally as a region when it comes to the positiveness and the confidence in AI. And this is really a sign of a fair understanding of what AI can bring to the table. It's among the least when it comes to levels of anxiety. Again, another good sign. In terms of adoption and usage, also we see significant trend in the Middle East when it comes to actually both managers, leaders, and frontline workers using AI. Now, taking a step back and looking into the bigger picture, is there more that can be done? Yes, absolutely. The competition is going to continue, and it's very important for the Middle East to position itself as a hub rather than a consumer of AI. When we look into the ratio, for example, of data scientists per million capita in the Middle East, it still remains around 100 data scientists per million capita, compared to some leading nations already getting into 600 to 700. So there is still a significant gap to fill. The attractiveness of the nations is improving. In fact, a recent survey that we conducted resulted in both Dubai and Abu Dhabi being among the top 5 cities in terms of attractiveness to talents globally. So the capabilities are there. The positioning of the region is there. It's a question now of building on that and really fill the gap of the talent.
Noor, what do you look for in AI entrepreneurs in the Middle East? Are there any attributes that you're looking for? And what do you feel stands out among them?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's great to be here today and to be part of this conversation. When we look for founders, it's AI founders or otherwise, it's always about founders that are on a mission to solve a very large problem. So an AI founder would be no different. If someone's coming in and saying, I'm going to use AI to build a better solution for this problem that I've identified, that's wonderful. The question is not what AI are you building, but rather how are you using AI? And even in the Gulf, MIT did a study at the MIT Review back in 2019, where they found that 82% of large companies in this part of the world already used AI. That was 5 years ago, before it was hype, before Gen AI was there. So AI is not something new. So when we take a look at AI founders, it's not really about the AI founder, it's about the founder, the problem, the solution that they have, the company they're building, how resilient they are, why they're so passionate about building this company and solving this problem, and ultimately, how are they going to use AI? Because the companies that don't use AI will be disadvantaged. So when we take a look at our portfolio now, 60% of our portfolio is either AI-led or AI-enabled. And both of those are very interesting ways to think about it, because these are companies, when we invested, this AI hype hadn't happened. But when we came back to them last year and said, guys, can you take a look? Have you implemented? Have you changed? And some of them have changed. So for example, Al-Tibbi, which started as a WebMD for the region, so lots of medical content online, and then became telemedicine, so you could reach a doctor, has now built the first LLM in Arabic for healthcare. That's huge. That's become an AI-led company. Others have always embedded AI and are now just accelerating how much they are using it to enable their progress and development. But the founder, at the end of the day, is the founder. And we take a look at all founders the same, the passion, the drive, the relevance, and how much they can bring to the table in solving the problem.
Have you seen or identified any investment trends in the region that are attracting probably more AI interest? And what factors do you look for when you're looking specifically at startups that are involved in AI? You did touch on it previously, but is there anything specific to just the whole hype of AI when it comes to digging out that talent from the region?
We have to be very careful when we value companies, because just like everything 5 years ago was blockchain, and you had this blockchain hype, and blockchain demanded a premium on a multiple basis, right? But from the beginning, our perspective was everything is going to be blockchain enabled if it hasn't yet been built on Web 2. And in this part of the world, much of it has not yet been built on Web 2. So we started to see this leapfrogging into Web 3 and blockchain. And now you can say that if it makes sense as a use case, every company should have some level of smart contract or blockchain or DeFi. Look where DeFi is compared to 5 years ago, right? But where are the multiples today for these companies? Back to normal. Right, so we've come down from that multiple expansion because of the hype and the intense amount of capital going into that one vertical. And I think AI is in a similar place, where AI companies kind of have a large multiple expansion at this point of the time. There's a lot of capital going into that sector, and therefore valuations are probably overhyped. Where we look forward 3 to 4 years, we're going to see everything is AI enabled. Every company uses AI or it's disadvantaged. The question is, how do you apply the AI to provide a better solution that is more accurate, that is faster and more intuitive and gives you more insights for your customer? And those AI multiples and AI valuations will suddenly be embedded in the value of the company and no longer demand a premium like they do today. So when we think about investing, we always have to be conscious of, in 3 years, this premium on multiples will cease to exist. How is AI actually helping this company provide a better solution? And what is the value of that today without the AI premium?
Akram, if I can take a leaf from what Noor just shared, looking at the broader investment landscape, what has been the nature and level of AI funding in the region, and how does this compare on a global scale? And what is the role that you see governments play to harbor an increased appetite for investment?
I need to be careful answering this one sitting next to the investment guru. See, in general, the investment in AI globally still remains concentrated within specific hubs. I think when we looked into the figures last time, around 60% of that is still floating into the US, for example, and everyone else basically captured the rest of the market. When it comes to AI startup funding in the Middle East, when we compare the results, for example, in places like UAE and KSA, the figures remains around, I think, 0.1% of the overall GDP as a comparison. But if you look into other more mature markets, such as Singapore, for example, or the UK, the number is almost 10 times that figure. So there is certainly room to go when it comes to basically how much money we actually get into that. I don't think we are short of smart money in the region. It's really more about having the right understanding of these opportunities and building the right funnel. The other aspect of that, if we look beyond just the traditional VC funding, there are additional funding elements that I think are less mature. For example, debt vehicles. When we looked into that, we realized actually a lot of the debt vehicles that are available in the market are mainly tailored for major companies, not for SMEs, and most of the AIs are still in that early phase, and they are not basically tailored specifically for AI companies, because a lot of these vehicles are mainly tailored toward like heavy capital investments. But what you need for as an AI startup is really to be able to take a loan to fund, for example, an AI pilot before you start basically building your financial muscles. So this is also specifically an area where, for example, governments can start filling some of these gaps. But we also need to be careful with where the government plays, because today I think some of the market at least are leaning too much toward government-funded AI basically ecosystem, where we need to gradually build that confidence that the government focuses on filling the gaps and sharing the risk, while basically continuously aiming toward FDI and private sector investment in the market.
Are there any emerging use cases in AI adoption that you feel holds promise and can justify a shift towards Gen AI in a bigger way within the region? Are there any use cases that you've seen and personally you feel holds promise?
I mean, we have one company in the portfolio, for example, that has always used some components of machine learning and AI in that context, that works on managing your manpower that's outside the office. So for example, if you're the police force or a large port provider and you have thousands of employees always working out there, the question is, how do you manage them? And sometimes it can be on WhatsApp or different platforms for communication, but how do you control their efficiency? How do you see what they're good at, what they're not good at? Then how do you change next week's schedule to allow for people to do the things they're good at and capture efficiency across your manpower? So this company we invested in about 5 years ago, and they've always used AI, and they help companies capture 36% increase in efficiency across the board. Now they're in the US market, they're in Europe, so they've scaled globally from the region, but they are effectively an AI company. And when you think about all deskless workers, if you can bring them into a space where they're working on tasks that they're actually good at and more efficient at, and remove the ones that they don't enjoy or they're not efficient at, you can optimize for their happiness and their well-being too. And so that's really what they're working on, is this efficiency capture, well-being capture, using AI capture of efficiency and what people are working on.
If I would take maybe a different spin to this, I think we're literally just about to get into the proper adoption at scale of Gen AI. I think everyone in the past couple of years were still in the exploration phase. What can I do with ChatGPT and the equivalent for that? Only now people started looking into more tailored solutions. For example, one of the products that we look into right now, and a lot of clients actually ask for it, is knowledge management. Like literally, how do I take all these contents that are scattered around the organization and make them accessible? Very simple, but it tells you that the potential is not in one specific use case, but in now finally getting into what can I do with that technology to my specific problems. In the Middle East specifically, given the nature of the population, it's very much multilingual. I think there is a huge opportunity when it comes to customer service and really filling the gaps of communication to be able to provide that kind of consistent service across basically the wide population with all their backgrounds, whether they speak Arabic, English, or any other languages. Energy, of course, will continue to be a prominent topic, not necessarily on Gen AI, even though I think with the recent announcements from Aramco building their own large language model, Gen AI will continue to be a topic, but beyond that, we're talking about automation, we're talking about autonomous drilling, et cetera, healthcare as well, given also some of the specific niches to the Middle East, such as diabetes, et cetera. I think there will continue to be development in that space. But as I said, it's beyond just one use case, but really rather now taking the available technologies at scale, a lot of it is even no code or low code, and find and tailor it to very specific solutions for the need of the organization.
Akram, how can countries in the region strike a balance between AI innovation while remaining responsible and ensuring that development isn't hindered?
That's always a difficult one to balance. We certainly need to ensure that people are abiding by the rules, by the ethics, especially in an environment where generally the population is actually quite excited. So if you look into the level, again, we talked about the confidence level and the limited anxiety. Because we have a tech-savvy people that actually want to use the technology, which basically brings an element of self-discipline that needs to happen. And that's really a collaboration that needs to happen between the private sector, the producer of technology, and the public sector. We have a good success story of how to make this work if we look into the fintech industry. There it was very much collaborative, was very much experimental. The concept of regulatory sandbox allowed us to basically look into the consequences of regulating before we hit basically a lot of restrictions from to limit innovation, and a lot of that can be borrowed to the space of AI. We've already seen some of these success stories, even for example in Europe, where they now have we have an AI Act, but they're still now scaling the concept of AI regulatory sandboxing. We can borrow a lot of these concepts into the Middle East as well, for the public and the private sector to work together toward a more gradual implementation of AI regulations.
What would you say are some critical steps that countries in the Middle East can take to ensure they're ahead of the game when it comes to AI, beyond just supporting talent and fostering innovation? What do you feel is the need of the hour? Maybe one step each that you feel countries that probably find themselves behind the race, it doesn't have to be UAE, but others, what do they need to focus on beyond talent?
Well, I think it's not just AI. For me, I'd love to see more of the countries, whether it's governments or large corporates, engage with and use local companies. It's not just about the talent can build a company, but if that company has trouble getting revenues, then that company is not going to do very well. And sometimes the software that gets built or the AI that gets built in the region is just as good, if not better, than what's global. And we have it as a proof, because we have more than a dozen companies, all software, that have more revenues from the US than from the region, including cybersecurity companies. And when we invested, they're only regional. But the regions sometimes take a lot of time to think through, is this as good as? How do we vet that? Do we buy locally? Do we buy internationally? And if we buy internationally, it's probably better. And that's not always true. We've seen that. That's the point now. So I think if there is a way to get the regions, large corporates and governments to buy more from regional companies that are being built by regional talent, you start to see a huge proliferation, and they can actually get ahead, because what we are building here is really best in class.
My view here as well is the region, and in particular some countries such as UAE and KSA, can really play a major role to become the center of attention and balance the polarization that is happening between, for example, the US side of the world and the China side of the world. This is not about becoming number three, but it's really about getting the world together around common goals to drive AI for the good of humanity, beyond racing toward leadership. And I think both countries and other countries in the region have actually done a fantastic job so far. Both, for example, KSA and UAE are represented in the AI advisory body that is basically driven by the United Nations. KSA recently announced the establishment of the iCare Center, which is the International Center for AI Research and Ethics, under the sponsorship of the UNESCO. Countries were both attended in the Global AI Safety Summit. So bringing this wise voice that really balances and cares for everyone, normalizes the bias that can happen from time to time, which would then have impact again on the way how the whole AI journey is driven across the world.
If there was a situation where you could get a dream AI initiative implemented across the Middle East, and you could change any aspect of society, what would it be?
So if I would think about what's unique to this region, there's a lot of tech savviness. People are excited about technology and AI in particular. There is very good trust in the government and the ability of the government to handle data, and actually continuous ask for government to actually offer even more AI. And there is sufficient centralization of data, at least across the main sectors. If I would think about really a dream initiative, it's a concept that I call the AI plus nation, which is basically to have an AI body for every individual in the country, for everyone to have their own AI health advisor, for their own AI admin assistant, for their own to have their AI educational body, for their to have their AI, I think we talked about the healthcare financial advisor, etc., that can really continuously learn from all of these floods of data specific to that individual, and tailor the learning to them at scale. If we can do that in the context of the Middle East, that would be a huge contribution that we can take it into the rest of the world.
I think for me it would be more industry specific. And if I think about the region, we all know that half our population is under the age of 30, but what we rarely talk about is about 30% of our population is currently in the education system, which is the highest percentage of population in the education system of anywhere in the world. And our education system is very largely government run. So for me, a dream would be where you could talk to a 3 or 4-year-old child, and from that age you can tell what their strengths and their weaknesses are with very basic tech that's not invasive. You can see their strengths, you can see what they're passionate about, and you can start curating a personal curriculum for them that really leverages their strengths, enables them to be the best version of themselves by the age of 15, works on their challenges so that they can overcome them, and really develops them in the way that is best for them. Very, very personal and very unique, as opposed to a cookie cutter approach across education. And then what you have 20 years from now is, as these individuals grow up and they form a strong working part of society, that they really are a force and they are the best versions of themselves, creating a better world for everyone.
Thank you so much, Akram and Noor, for your thoughts. You've left us with enough food for thought to think about till our next episode.